You're listening to the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. How we doing? How we doing? I want to talk to you this morning about Teresa Witherspoon, head coach of the Chicago Sky, had a press conference. And Witherspoon has kind of been taking the podium and kind of repeating herself. But I want to do some translations of what's going on. I want to take you through the Chicago Sky organization because this didn't start with Coach Witherspoon. And she's getting the hot spot on it or getting on the hot seat for it. But you got to look at Michael Alter, the Chicago Sky owner. He's made a commitment. And you got Jeff Pagliocca, I believe it is. I might be way off on the mispronunciation, but that's the general manager, and he's got a vision. But it all has to align before it reaches Chicago Sky coach Witherspoon. So let's dig into it a little bit, and I'll do some translations as Coach Witherspoon covers in the press conference because this
How do you
is
get
interesting.
them more involved in a game like this, and where do you feel like maybe that was missing tonight?
Well, we have to be a little more intentional. Just like our guards just told you here, we have to get the ball inside. That's who we are. The ball must go inside. It has to go inside to our bigs. They are dominant in there. It helps when they dominate the paint. Then it helps us on the outside. It gives us an opportunity to have perimeter game. They understand how important that is and what it means to our success offensively.
And just to follow up on that, do you feel like that was coming from Angel and Camilla not like getting to their spots? Was it from the guards not like looking for them? Just where do you think that lack of?
I'll probably have to go back to the film and see, but there was a lack of rhythm and flow to try to move the ball and be able to get the ball inside to them from the right person. You might not.
So there it is. She's talking about the right person. And when you get through this, folks, this is something I haven't seen in a while. And when I tell you I haven't seen in a while, you're talking about a coach who's kind of breaking down what she has to work with. And here's the deal with the Chicago Sky. The Chicago Sky, I kind of said some things earlier. I mean, they're not high IQ. Okay, you got guards that figure they could play in the WNBA, but they're also challenged in their ability of making plays and how they view the game. And you got Coach Witherspoon getting the responsibility when you're working with B-level players. This is kind of tough on Spoon because she didn't create it. You got a general manager created it. You got an owner that's committed, but it's not all coming together. And there's reasons why it's not all coming together.
Not be the person to make the pass, but who is. So let's get the ball to the right person to make the pass inside, and then we play off of that. That's who we are. That's what we do. And that's when we become a better team.
At this point in the season, what is this team missing?
The team is missing actual players.
Fifth straight loss, this one by 19 points after 4 by no more than 4 points. What is this team missing?
We have a lot of things that we need to correct. And it starts on the defensive side of the ball. We are a defensive team, offensive runs. And if we're not getting stops, we're not being disruptive. We're allowing teams to get shots where they want it, how they want it, when they want it. Ball moves, swings from one side to the other, whether it gets to the second side, even the third side. It's very difficult to defend that.
And folks, you got to have players to do that. Here's the thing. When you get players that have been on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams. Okay, let me tell you what you got there, folks. You got players that nobody else wants. Okay. They've been around. And that's a bad habit of the WNBA. WNBA has got a bad habit of letting players playing for a lot of teams. You got some of them that played for every team in the league. Okay, so this thing of recycling players in the WNBA, there's no win in it. There's no win in it for the Chicago Sky. Chicago Sky have had this problem. The Chicago Sky, the owner has owned the organization since 2006. Okay, the Chicago Sky got a miracle. Okay, and won the WNBA championship, being the first WNBA team to win a championship that didn't have a winning record. They were 16-16 and went on and won the championship. So you got to give them some credibility, but at the same time, I mean, you got Witherspoon doesn't have a full deck, and this is tough to coach.
So we have to be better on the defensive side of the ball. All five players. All right, you got to be disciplined when you're guarding the ball. You can't allow anybody to get behind you. You keep the ball in front of you. When you're closing out, which is probably the most difficult thing in the game of basketball, you got to be able to close out and be able to defend those people who put the ball on the floor. So that's defending off the bounce. And then
see, you don't have players that could do that. And when you get stuck in a situation like the Chicago Sky are, you Coach Witherspoon could tell you every single step in the game. But if I don't have players that can execute that, and you look at the Chicago Sky, they don't have the players. I mean, they just don't have the players. They played the Indiana Fever. Okay, the Indiana Fever last night. It was an embarrassment. It was an embarrassment for the Chicago Sky. But that had nothing to do with Coach Witherspoon. Okay, you got to put this thing in perspective and what's going on, okay? Because when you put it in perspective, you got to take a look at saying, who's making these shots? Because you brought Witherspoon in the coach, okay? But the general manager, Jeff, right there is the general manager, okay? And he has made his decision on what he wants to do. Now, he's got to align that decision, and he's got to maintain that decision that's going to be right there what he says he's going to do. And if he doesn't do that, folks, that's a tougher ticket because he's not reaching his expectation of what he said he was going to do. And that was where you got the Indiana Fever. Here's where the problem lies. And here you can take a listen to this, and it's going to tell you.
Yeah, we just want players that are competitive and want to be coached hard. And, we have a lot of those players here already. And it's going to be an energized new chapter with Teresa coaching the team. She brings so much, obviously as a Hall of Fame player and lots of coaching experience, player development background. But, from my end, we have so much to work with and be excited about.
So you see where he's talking about it, folks, and he's breaking it down. That's what he said he wanted to see happen, player development. But none of that has happened on the player development end, and it makes it a little bit harder for him to do his job, for Teresa Witherspoon to do the job. And when you get it like this, folks, this thing comes across in a different way, and it really just doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. You got to know this. And the reason I'm telling you this is because everything that he is committed to do is not really
you're not
getting
the only
done.
one who's sort of diving into
know.
those numbers to figure out which players you want to be able to acquire.
Yeah, I think analytics has to play a pivotal piece and taking a look at players and their value and how they're evolving from season to season or from game to game. I know I used it regularly whether putting scouts together for NBA or WNBA players or taking a look from week to week, or even when you're building off-season plans, you want to look at, numbers and, identify places on the floor where they need to improve or where they like catching the ball. And you kind of grow from there and build out of those things. So
analytics is where he put it. Okay. When he drafted Angel Reese, Carmelo Cardosa, analytics, this situation here, this is the Money Mike City Kitty Radio podcast. We're powered up by Fanatics, and we're bringing it to you straight across the board this morning. We got Teresa Witherspoon. We are giving a strong recap reaction to what's going on because the Chicago Sky, you got to understand, this comes Jeff Pagliocca. This comes out of the general manager. Okay, the general manager is calling the shots on the Chicago Sky, not Teresa Witherspoon. Last night, I saw something that was very, very interesting to me. And when I call it interesting, it's just to let you know I hadn't seen that happen before. Both players emptied the bench, but it went on to get Angel Reese the double-double. Now, there's a lot of support that's around this. You got Dwayne Wade's up there. He's a part owner. And, the Chicago Sky owner, he's made a commitment. He gave up ownership percentage, invited some investors in to give the Chicago Sky fans a better opportunity, okay, to get a champion. Okay, he wants to win, and the timing was tough. I mean, you're coming off of Corona, but the timing gets a little tough because you got an owner that wants to win, okay, so he gives up part of the franchise. He's been the owner since 2006, okay, and like I said, they got very lucky, 16, I think it's 221, they won the actual WNBA championship. And when you look at the Sky and how the Sky were able to do it and what they were able to do. And, you got to put it in perspective because they've been an up and down organization the entire time he's been in ownership. And when you get there and you go, okay, how are we going to do it? What's going to happen? The Chicago Sky, I mean, he's been through a lot of coaches. He had Coach Wade, one of the best coaches he had. And they've been up and down the entire time. I mean, it's never been anything. And like I said, they finished 16-16, 2021. You got to put this in perspective under Coach Wade, right? They finished 16-16, 221. They go out there and they get the rhythm and they win in the playoffs, okay? They get the first round done, they get the semifinal done, and then they go ahead and win the whole thing in 2021. Okay, but what happened after that? They went through another general manager. I think it's Michael Wade. They went through him, and they get to gut the entire program. They gutted the entire organization, folks. They gutted the entire organization. They're starting from scratch. And that's where the actual Chicago Sky are now. There is nothing to work with. You got two post players. You got the general manager here, Jeff, talking about development. He says, look, I want to get this development. This is what I want to see happen. This is how I want to see it done. Okay, but if you got Angel Reese who's not developing it, I'll tell you, that's a tough one. That's a tough one for me. That one gets tougher and tougher because as I was thinking about it last night, and it kind of frustrated me. And I kind of looked through it, and I said, man, what's going on? Okay, well, I figured it out. Okay, you got all of Clark's endorsements. Everything can be done in the gym. Every commercial, shouldn't have to go anywhere. You got Angel Reese who's got a lot of sponsorships, got a lot of off-the-court work. I don't think she has enough time to prep for basketball, and I don't think that's going to really change because, that's what's been allowed, and that's what Jeff has said. This is where we're going. But when you get back to Spoon and you start listening to Spoon talk and you hear what Spoon is saying, you just got to buckle up because she has nothing to work with on the Chicago Sky. It's a tough ticket to manage, really tough.
And those who can shoot it, you want to be able to make sure that you're out there to contest and contain, and then be able to do both. It's an approach. It's an approach. It is nothing more than an approach. And defense is a will and a want to. It's a desire. And defense is the hardest damn thing you're going to play in this game. The hardest thing.
So you got Jeff wanted somebody that was going to coach him up hard. He wanted somebody to coach him up hard. He got Witherspoon. That's what she's doing. Now, the players are too fragile. They're too fragile. And, the fragileness showed later in the game. Okay, when they're trying to bang CaitlincLark all around the floor because you got beat. Okay, you got beat. Okay, Angel Reese, defensive transit. You saw that right from the start of the game. Okay, you got beat, and you know what? You can't get the coach keep going to the podium when I could tell she out of 52 cards, she's got 46 she's playing with. And guys, this is more than comical.
You're gonna play in this game. It's to defend. And you do so under control without fouling. In that third quarter, we sent them to the line over and over and over. We can talk about whatever the referee did, and that it's what it is on that. I'm like,
and that one she is right. That one there, Spoon is right. Okay, because Spoon's telling it 100%. Let me tell you something, folks. I have never, ever, ever, ever in basketball. Okay, and I've seen a lot of them, more than my share, but I've never seen officiating like we're getting now. First, the narrative was this is WNBA, the women are competitive. That ain't the point. That ain't the case, and that ain't what's going down on the court. Okay, and I kind of mentioned Tom Drakeford out of Delaware, Delvar Sports. Okay, Delvar Sports. I mean, Tom's been around forever, going strong, 80 years old, has put just hundreds of NBA officials through training. Okay, Delvar Sports. He runs the pro-am. I think the deal with the officiating in the WNBA is you got the NBA has got the best of the best. Okay, and they grind it out every night, and they call a decent game. They have up and down, but they don't have swings. Okay, I think you got the NCAA has got the next crop. Okay, and I think the WNBA, for the pay, I think they got the bottom of the crop. But the WNBA can get better officials. Okay, these are all the things Kathy Ellenberg. This is a military operation. Kathy Ellenberg, West Point. You got. This is a military operation going on here, folks. And when you build an organization or you build something, I mean, it's going to operate just like America, United States military, right? That's what you got. So you got this whole thing with the officials just out of control. You might go in a game, you might lose a jaw, you might lose an eye, you might lose an arm, and it is not consistent. It is all over the place. And that's what, everybody's talking about. Because you got Spoon saying, "Look, I don't want to pay any money." I mean, because you know what they're getting every time you can talk about officials or you say anything about officials, they're going to take the money from you, so you don't do it. But this one here has gotten to the point where she doesn't have anything to work with, and
Rachel, I don't need to get fined. I don't need to get fined. So I think that's enough. Tells you enough of what I think about how it's reffed.
Coach Spoon, you guys opened up the game and you guys have really preached punching first, and that just wasn't there in the second half. I know film will probably show you something, but what did you see where the energy was lost in that second half?
I can't really tell you until I take a look at that film. But like you said, that energy we came out with in the beginning, that's exactly how we have to play. You have to punch, but you can't punch once. You got to keep punching.
And that's what you don't got, folks. You got B players on the court. You got B players. I'm telling you now, these – way the game works, you get some people who can't play in this league, find the land their way. They've been around, okay? They've been around. The game's changing, okay? The game's changing. You got Camila Cardosa, okay, is the diamond in the rough that, can take this thing wherever you want to take it, okay? Now you got Angel Reese who, I mean, let's face it, this is a disappointing team. You can go to all the rebounds you want, but with me, I've come around the game, and you know what? I've seen a lot of great players, a lot of great women players. And because a player gets 20 rebounds, 20-plus rebounds 3 times, or 3 or 4, maybe 5 times in a year, you know what? If a player in the NBA gets 50 points, they're 3 times in a game, 3 games, okay, and they have to play the rest of the year, and they don't succeed, they're not Rookie of the Year. They're not MVP, okay? You're not MVP. You got to put this thing where it belongs, and you can't fabricate it. You can't put it in there. And I know the deal. I can tell you this thing's is higher up. Okay, you got Michael Alter, you got Jeff Pagliocca, you got Jeff P, general manager, and then you got Witherspoon. Okay, by the time you get down to Witherspoon, decisions at the top have already been made. Okay, they already been made. I got Chicago's guy, what you got in Chicago, you got the toughest media you're gonna find next to New York, right? Every day they're looking to crucify you. Okay, so I got the media asking Spoon questions about what can we do. You can't do anything. You don't have the players. You don't have the players, okay? Period. I'm telling you, when you look at the Fever and you look at the Sky, here's the deal that the Fever did. The Fever went through the draft, okay? And they've been dicking these poundings and beatings for so long. But you got to understand, they drafted Mitchell in 2018, okay? And they drafted all the players they have now. Chicago Sky didn't do it. It's been an in and out, shuffle the deck, in and out, in and out, in and out. I mean, they've had every star in the WNBA. The history of stars they had. But their organization is not built to win. It's always overturning. And now they got to say to themselves, we got drafting, let's go back. And I'll tell you, folks, this one here, there's nothing Witherspoon can do. I wish she had something she could, but there's nothing she could do.
We always says 40 minutes to this game. And you're going to have a team like that who have runs. But now we have to remain composed and poised enough to break the run. That's the game. The game is just like this. But once a team get on the run, how do you stop it? You execute your offensive stuff. You get back. You get defensive stops.
And that's basic IQ. That's about as basic you can get. I mean, you're not getting more basic than that, okay? You get stops, okay, and you execute. And they can't do that. It's shocking. Evans, it's shocking. The Shields was a high pick. It's shocking. Okay, to when you get to the point that you're fouling a player because you're getting whipped on the court. And when I'll say this, I really believe this in the bottom of my heart with Angel Reese. I believe it in the bottom of my heart. Angel Reese can make more money and is bigger than the WNBA. Okay, Angel Reese is bigger than the WNBA. What I mean by that, Angel Reese could do $3 million a year, make $60 million, go over there, fashion model. There's so many other off-the-court activities, or not really off the court act. These are not activities. This is a career she has in fashion, modeling, acting. Okay, and it is what it is. I mean, Jim Brown was the greatest running back to ever play the game, but Jim Brown left the game, went into acting, had a contract dispute, right? Well, Angel Reese has got all this going on with basketball. You got Shaquille O'Neal's, my daughter, everything. But if it don't connect, I mean, if you don't develop the player and you just go off the analytics, you're dead in the water. You're dead in the water, and that's what Jeff P's got. I mean, he's punching out analytics. You got to go to the draft, and you got to get Witherspoon some players because you know what? Christy Sides was right there where she was last year. Chicago Sky can come back, turn this around, and be back on the books again. But, man, you ain't going to get it with what you got in the deck now. And the reporters are asking the questions. The true questions the reporter should be asking is when are you going to, as Deion Sanders say, when are you going to back up the truck? As the NFL says, when are you going to back up the truck? Because you got to get the dump truck in here. And you got to go out there and get your draft picks, train them your way, build them your way, develop them your way, okay? Because if you put the analytics out there and you just go off of analytics, that they're not even close. They can't even explain. I guarantee you this, and I'd put a lot of money on it. If Teresa Witherspoon sent the Chicago Sky players to the board and say, draw it up. Okay, this little thing I learned in women's basketball too. There's a good majority of players, if you could use a clipboard, they don't even understand the clipboard. Okay, and that's what you got going on here. They have no idea what you're trying to do. So the players take the podium. We got to look at film. We got to get better. What are you going to get better at? You're 30-plus games in a 44-game season. Where are you going to get better at? Okay, you've been doing this long enough. You're a pro. Okay, there's no more room. You don't have any more room. So what do? You let the coach take the pounding for your weakness. There's nothing there, Jeff P. There's nothing there, Michael Alter. I mean, you got to look at it and say, you know what? Okay, we can dump this on somebody. Okay, Jeff P. Because it rolls downhill. So we can blame it on the coach. That buys us more time. Or you can go out and get her some players to win with. And if you do that, okay, the owner has given up partial stake, brought investors. He's got a whole another group of investors, okay, that have come in there, and he's got to be able to do what he said he's going to do. He gave up part of the franchise. Okay, it's a different franchise, folks. It's not a double dipper. Okay, this is not the Chicago Bulls owner, okay, owning the Chicago Sky. Okay, that's not the case. Okay, you got Michael Alter's run this course by himself. Okay, went through the COVID, the whole process. I mean, he's a pretty good businessman, good businessman. But he took an extra step, leap of faith. Okay, and when you do that, he got Dwayne Wade in the middle of this. Dwayne Wade and Shaq, they're gonna put their hands in this organization. And you got to understand something too, Jeff P. Okay, all this goes down before it even reaches Coach Cooper. Okay, I always say Coach Cooper, excuse me, Coach Witherspoon. This all goes down before it even reaches her desk. Okay, and I'm talking about an organization here, folks, that you got to put in perspective. 221, they were 16-16 and turned that around and won a championship. Okay, you just they rolled the dice, put it on snake eyes, ace came up, and they were WNBA champions. But that hasn't been the history. The history has been a revolving door in and out of players. Okay, I'm sure Michael Alter's just tired of it. I mean, he's exhausted. I mean, he's done everything he can. So you try to go through it, you get another general manager, that didn't work. Okay, so now you get another general manager here, Jeff P. And so Jeff P. has got to put all this together. But he's also got to put it together so it works. And if it doesn't work, then it hasn't come together. And so you leave it to the thing. Now, who's got to take the bullets for a full year? That's Witherspoon. And Witherspoon is doing her best to take all
and then you heard your guard say that the veterans just need to step up here on this team. With this being such a young team, what do you ask of your veterans? What is it that they can do to kind of show these rookies and these young players what to do to win basketball?
Well, in times like these, this is the most important time to show the example of leadership. The most important time because of, sometimes it get a little chaotic out there and chaos is happening, but you got to gather your troops. And the way things are refereed, you just have to make your adjustments as well as I
And this is the time where you have to tell them it's time to find a new job. Okay, some of you guys going to be looking for a new job. It's not going to be in the WNBA, okay, because you're not qualified to play in the WNBA. And after you've been on multiple teams and you haven't figured it out, this is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. And I'm really just trying to bring you something here. We're powered up by Fanatics, so we got good gear for you. Look in the description, click your box. But here, we're here to tell you the story. This is not a Witherspoon issue, okay? This is a situation where you have signed players based off of analytics. And Money Mike's always going to tell you, I go through the eye test. I got to put my eyes on you, see if you can play. Okay, so when I look at these guards and I got their agents complaining, man, you better go try to find them a job. They're auditioning for other teams. And when you get a situation like that, I can go through the lineup one by one by one. Okay, and if you can't get this job done, you don't belong in the WNBA. And the Chicago fans, here's the deal. Chicago fans, they got behind you because you brought in Angel Reese. Okay, Angel Reese, man, oh man, that's kind of been a disappointment because Angel Reese didn't bring in the team leadership that you thought you were getting from coming to the championship program at LSU. Angel Reese played around a lot of good players, okay? She wasn't the only player that carried them to the championship, okay? Caitlinclark carried Iowa, okay? You got to understand, okay? You got to understand that's a little different, okay? You got Camila Cardosa carried South Carolina, okay? But she also had great players around her too. So even though they were high in the draft, they were just role players. They weren't leaders or actually the determined factor of whether or not they won the championships there. But they got to develop, and players like that, they have the skill set. You can forget about telling me Angel Reese can't dribble the basketball. Angel Reese is showing that. And every player, here's the deal, and all Chicago Sky and all WNBA fans, whenever I do things like this, I'm just talking directly to players. Every player's got 25 to 50. I know the NBA's got 25 to 50 guys to get the word back, okay? Chicago Sky got players that are not very good. So you can get the word back on that. It's Deion Sanders. This time you back the dump truck up. And you know what? You're really going to be looking for another job, okay? Because you're not going to have a job with the Chicago Sky. I can guarantee you that. And if you can't do that, you're going to come back and look at the same performance because the guards are not good enough, okay? They don't shoot it enough, okay? You got Bantam coming over with the Sun attitude of how to get past it mentally, and this is what we got to do. You got an old veteran that's been around that is really trying to speak highly, but guys, we're 33 games in the season. I mean, my Chicago Sky, we're 33 games into the season. You got 10 more games. Pack your bags, exit meeting, and good luck to you. Okay, that really where Jeff P should be. And Witherspoon can go take a break because this thing with Angel Reese, when I see a head coach not mention a player in a press conference and hasn't done it for a while, let me just tell you, they're not following or doing what they need to be done. That needs to come through player development. Okay, as Jeff P., the general manager's talked about, I want to develop them. They didn't develop Angel Reese this year. Okay, I'll lay that one out. And there's no reason to be upset or anything and they have all these expectations, but they didn't develop Angel Reese. Okay, and sometimes you miss. Okay, but you know what? I mean, you get better players and you come in there, you stick with the draft and you train and build your own. Chicago Sky have never been an organization that's really done that. They've really gone out, got veterans, put them together, get them on the floor. And they try to put a reputable team on the floor, but it's not going to be the best team. So, you know, to tell you this is not a Coach Witherspoon problem. That's not what you got here. Okay, you just got a problem where you got a lot of people are sitting here who have made the decision. And when they make a decision like they've made, they've got to stand for it. They got to stand behind it. And when it doesn't work out,
every single team, you know, is putting a much more of a premium on the analytics and data side. And I think without it, you know, you're a step behind.
You have had the opportunity to do it through these past few years. How much do you feel like you're getting better information than even a few years ago? And again, you know, to me, I keep going back to thinking from the media side of things, we're not necessarily getting all the same things public facing that the data that is available in the W. But I know internally the WNBA has lacked that, even just basics like having that data available in various NBA arenas, but not WNBA arenas.
Right. And I think, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
No,
please.
Standardizing that stuff, I think, is trying to be a priority. And there are a lot of gyms with that software and technology in them. And you need to have it. You need to have it immediately. And, whether it's during games or, by halftime, or a lot of players, they want to see, the areas, immediately,
And that's the best thing you could say on the plus minus, but I will tell you this. He's an analytics guy. And when you get an analytics guy, man, it's different than the eye test guy. You get a guy like Danny Ainge. That's the eye tester. General manager, Utah. Utah is going to be going. He already built Boston. Sometimes you get in there, folks, and you hear the analytics, but you got to get back to what it actually is. And the game is still a game. You got to be able to play it. And you get guys, you see players do successful things or take shots in certain places. And, analytics, it's dangerous. It's dangerous because when the analytics don't show the player's heart. Their analytics doesn't show the player's determination, doesn't show the will to win. However, in the game of basketball today, the analytics play an important part. I mean, they play an important part because if you can find out where a player is most successful, and they're going to be most successful in this spot, then you start kind of restricting their shots. Okay, you start restricting their shots because the shots that they want to take, they're not shooting a great percentage. Okay, so that's kind of where the Chicago Sky are. They're all over the place. You say they don't shoot threes. The other night they came out, they didn't have any choice because they couldn't get in the paint. They couldn't get to the paint where they needed to be. And what did that do? That forced Chicago Sky to take three-pointers. It gave them a false identity for about, a quarter and a half. And then after that, reality strepped back in. It's kind of like boxing. If you look at boxing, you can get a great trainer. A boxer can get a new trainer. Okay, but when the fight breaks out, they always revert to what they know. That's what the Chicago Sky did. I wanted to break that down. You got an owner, Michael Alter. Okay, you got a general manager, Jeff P. Talks about player development analytics. They didn't develop Angel Reese, and they didn't get that one right this year because their shooting is nowhere near where it should be. And then you get past that, okay, you get to Witherspoon. So while everybody's really getting on Witherspoon, like I said, I wasn't appreciative to have a player go after and continue a record in garbage time. I mean, they dump benches, and now you're going against the reserves to get what you need. That's a bad decision, but that's the organization's decision. Okay, that's not Witherspoon. It is what it is. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. We're going to take you behind the scenes on that, kind of open up the deck, let you know how the Chicago Sky operate, who's involved, what's involved. And they're a new organization trying to get it right. They haven't been able to do that over the years. Michael Alter has thrown up his hands and said, look, he's got a multitude of investors, did a valuation, got a capital raise in there so he could do more. Okay, but it is what it is this year. Next year, you could put a little more expectation on it. They'll be a better team. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. We're powered up by fanatics. We'll tell you this. All things are possible to those who believe, and we'll see you soon.